Okay, we'll begin with a little relaxation meditation as always, and so let's just relax from our head first. We can squint the face muscle, and then relax it. And then we can kind of rotate our neck if you like. Just go into a relaxation mode. Very comfy kind of thing. Good. We roll our shoulders back. Good. Sit up straight in a chair. Just feel how the weight of our body is supported by the chair. So it's a presence of our body. And we can just push our tummy in and relax and just feel the difference between the relaxed state and the state we had before. So now we tense up our left leg and relax it. Just feel the blood flowing into our feet. And tense up our right leg and relax and let the blood flow through our whole body. So now we have a presence of our body at this moment. So this is presence exercise. Now let's focus on our breathing. Okay, we breathe out, let that dirty air out of our lungs, and breathe in. And slowly breathe out and breathe in. And just feel the relaxation. Now last week we practiced counting the breathing when we do this, just from 1 to 10 and so on and so forth, right? And then you were given an assignment. We asked you, how many breaths do you think you would have taken in this lifetime? So that is a SAM question, and many of you have answered that question, and I encourage those of you who have not yet answered that question, please give us your answer by email to info@awu-edu.com. I guarantee you will not be disappointed when you participate in this fun exercise. But by now, you would have known why we count breath. We were counting bigger and bigger and bigger numbers, and that's how we open our mind. So this week, I'd like you to, instead of counting the breath, when we breathe in, I want you to visualize the air molecule that go into our lungs. And then when we breathe out, I want you to visualize how all these air molecules are mixing by all the members of our class right now. As we breathe in and we breathe out. And by diffusion and so on, very quickly, within a minute or two, the air you breathe out, I probably breathe in a few minutes later. Same way, the air I breathe out, you'll probably take it in a few minutes from now. So in other words, every one of us in this room, in this classroom today, we are sharing the same air. We are sharing the same molecule. And that's how I like you to visualize. Okay? And because last lecture, we were going higher and higher and higher dimensions. So when we go home and visualize this breathing, I want you to visualize how far away this air molecule that you breathe out is going to go. Alright. With an open heart. Because last week, we heard from a couple of our classmates. We feel that we are one. We are one. We are connected. Now, through the breathing of these air molecules, try to visualize our connectivity between us at the molecular level. Okay. Very good. Okay. Let us go to the prostration. Our palms together. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Ramaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Ramaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Ramaya, Namo Sanghaya. So this is just a traditional greeting among ourselves. And we dedicate our intent. The unsurpassed, profound, and intricate Dharma is difficult to encounter, even over hundreds and thousands of copies. Now that I have seen and heard the Dharma, I behold and uphold what the Dharma offers. I wish to understand the true meaning of Gatha. In the second paragraph, there is I. There's 3 I's in there. Okay. And Dr. Roy Chen is going to explain to us today what all this I means. Next slide, please. This I thing, this me thing, okay, difficult to explain. So we'll title this series of lecture as Forget Me Not, the name of a nice flower. Okay. So please help me to welcome Dr. Chen to begin the lecture on Forget Me Not, definition of self, I, ego. Thank you, Dr. Chen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. I'd like to thank Ruby to make this presentation so much more exciting. Oh, you will know. Definitely beyond my capacity. Okay, the lecture's on Forget Me Not. So to prevent me from plagiarizing other people's idea, I have to declare where I got my information from. Actually, I'm not a PhD, so I don't have to worry about people kind of charging me for plagiarizing and take my degree away. I'm only a doctor. But before we begin, can we tell everyone about my understanding of PhD? This is digressing, okay? Can we do it? Would the PhDs here have any objections for me to tell them my experience and my ego and my counter ego or whatever about PhDs? No? Okay. Actually, it's my tribute to the 2 PhDs here who has their dedication make this presentation possible. So there are 3 doctors here. 2 of us are really PhD. I mean, one of me is really no good me, huh? And 2 of them are really fantastic. All right, I'll tell you what I know about PhDs. When I was in high school in Hong Kong, we had the Master of Science, Bachelor of Arts and Science teaching us in high school. So, we got used to that degree. And one day there was this PhD from MIT, actually, that came back and started teaching us physics. We look at him, wow, he's a PhD. We don't know what PhD actually means. Then, when I got into university, then we start understanding what PhD means. Right? My understanding at that time is PhD means parents have dough. Right? So, now in case, some of us may not know what dough means. Dough means the parents have lots of money. Okay, dough is what we use to make bread. So, back in those days, because we were associated with these professional students who couldn't find a job after they graduated from a bachelor degree, and they went on to study. So that's my understanding of PhDs at that time. Parents have dough, okay? So later on, I had the good fortune of being in Glasgow, Scotland, to do some postgrad training. I was living in postgrad residence, and I really began to know what PhD means. Now, this is obviously UK PhD. They may be different from Canadian PhDs, but I think it's universal. Now, Dr. Lowe mentioned about fragmentation of knowledges, right, of knowledge. So all of us, I studied medicine. Some of my colleagues progressed to subspecialize in all sorts of degrees. Some of us become biologists, physicists, and all this. And when we graduate from university, or when they graduate from university, they all got PhD for philosophy, doctor of philosophy. I used to hate being called doctor in the cafeteria or in the restaurant because I think they would charge me extra. They expect a big tip from the doctor, right? So when I hear someone say oh, you are a real doctor. You're not just a PhD. You really, God, I'm ready. Well, strange enough, when I was in postgrad training, then I know how hard these guys work. They basically are 24/7. And one little incident, we were in residence and I was studying till about 12 o'clock p.m., midnight. And this guy came back and he looked like a zombie. I haven't slept all day. I said, yeah, shit, I was a resident, okay, and I don't sleep much anyways. And I said, why? He said, well, there was a power failure. I said, so what? Oh yeah, well, I have to be there to make sure the generator works, because if the power failed, all my 4 years of experiment went dead. And I would have nowhere to go. I said, wow, this guy spent 4 years of his life, okay, and could be ruined by just circumstances. A few months later, I saw this guy coming back, and he was really happy because he had a piece of paper from Nature magazine saying that his thesis was accepted, so we're really congratulating him. And in his hand, there was a pair of journals. One is from the journal Clinical Immunology. So he was kind of flipping it, and then all of a sudden, he basically got his folks down on the chair and his head down. But like a dog without wigging his tail down, his head down. I said, come on. 1 minute you were so happy, next minute you were really down in the dumps. And then the guy said, well, we're asking you why. He said, look, in this journal of clinical immunology, that exact same article that I have presented as my thesis was printed. So I said, well, we didn't know what it meant, right? So I said, well, what does that mean? So he said, well, let me show what is going to look at my thesis. Right? Someone has already printed it. And I said, well, then the other postgrad students were saying, well, you know what? At least you graduate. Because Nature has accepted your article. Alright? Even though nobody read what he's going to write, but at least you graduate. Now he's from China. He was in Scotland for 4 years, haven't seen his family. And can you imagine what he would be like? So anyways, then I understand, for PhDs, they all have to present something which no man has ever traveled before. Am I right? Yeah. So this guy has a critical moment, and he was fortunate that his article was accepted, it would be printed, he would still pass his thesis. He would still become a PhD after he defended his thesis. So, the sad part about that story is these PhDs have to go to conventions. They have to share with others, right, what they research. But they cannot share enough so other people can categorize their articles. And that is a tough balance between ego and sharing things. So I pay tribute to them since then, and they are really now PhD in my heart, and I really admire them. And they are not just parents at all. Right. So that's my tribute to the two PhDs here. So I'm happy that I'm just a doctor. I'm not a PhD. I admire them. Okay. Tribute to them. Well, it's true, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, by the way, do you know why medical doctors in UK is called MBBS? Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Science, and whereas in Canada and the United States it's called MD, Medical Doctors. Because back in the old days, for doctors in North America to be called Doctor of Medicine, they have to do the same thing as in UK. They have to present an article where no man had done before. Well, now we are lucky because our forefathers have done such a good job to eliminate that requirement. So we are doctors and we have this big, huge ego that you will see. Okay, alright, so that ego then leads me to this. And I have the next slide, please. Ego. I'd like to do a sales pitch, okay? This is a book by Master Wukong, a monk in Taiwan. He went to Japan and brought back esoteric Buddhism, okay, back to Taiwan. The Japanese had guarded it for 1,200 years. All right, as their imperial treasure, and would not let anyone who is non-Japanese take it. So Master Wukong was the first one to got it back from Japanese into Chinese soil. Of course, the Japanese got it from China. And we got it from India. Okay. So now the reason I brought up this book is because he talked about a lot of things. And ego is part of it. Now what I admire is Western ideas. This book is a New York bestseller for years. And it has been translated to numerous countries. And this book is called The Power of Now. Okay. Any one of us who speaks Cantonese or Chinese will know. This is basically 活在當下. All the things that he said was discovered or talked about by Buddha 2,500 years ago. And we have generations of monks who have taught us this. But none of them made $1 million, okay? And these Western guys took Buddha's idea, expand on it, and made lots of money. So, it just makes me wonder, why are all our monks, okay, and all these brilliant thinkers never thought about writing it in a way to make billions of dollars? And that's because they do not think about modernizing the language. And this is what AWE is trying. We are blending philosophy, science, and spirituality together. Okay? That is the essence of our course. And this guy went on to write another book. And it's called A New Earth. It's not a new earth. It's a new idea. It's all about ego. It took me 4 readings to know what he was trying to say. It's terrible writing, this book. The reason I brought it up is because if it were not because I had to organize this lecture, I read this book 4 times. First 3 times, I didn't know what he was trying to say, except for the term. I understand all the English words. I have no idea what he was saying. It's only when I'm trying to organize this that I realize he was talking about one simple thing, ego. Okay? Now, why would I mention this? It's because of participation. If it were not because I had to organize this, I would not be able to get myself to read it the 4th time and understand it. So I ask every one of you here, please do what Buddha said, do what all the good monks said, participate, get involved, okay? And that's what Jing Xin has talked about in the first 2 lectures. I encourage you to get more involved, okay? Participate, you will benefit more. When my mother died just recently, well, we do all the Chinese things and we get a monk, recite the sutras to her spirit. And one of the sutras was saying, if you recite the sutra, your benefit is 6 times more than the deceased. It's participation. Okay, it's from the sutra. If you can find it, I'll tell you where the source is. Right? So by participating, you get more. When I listened to the sutra, I said, yeah, sure, big deal, okay? But when I finally feel it by participation, I know my benefit is 6 times more, and even much more than just listening to that sutra. So for those of us who can participate, you benefit yourself much more than others. Alright, so that's the sales pitch, okay? Now, again, courses that we were aiming at, our direction is to blend philosophy with science and spirituality. And please remember, you can make millions of dollars out of it, okay? By participating. First of all, I quote science. We all know Albert Einstein, I hope. That is a quote from him. Basically, ego and I is an optical illusion of consciousness. Again, consciousness is not alertness. Consciousness is a different thing. So let's make that term clear. I did it in the previous lecture. It's an optical illusion. Alright? Now this is from Einstein. He's a science guy. He actually saw it. It's really an optical illusion. Now, he is actually credited as the father of modern philosophy. I think, therefore I am. Now, let's think it over. I think, therefore I am. He is talking about thinking. In fact, This guy actually got to the root of all sufferings. But he didn't know how to proceed further. He was great. He hadn't got to the level of Buddha yet. I think, therefore I am. Right, then, 300 years later, a Frenchman named Jean-Paul Sartre. Now, it's a very difficult verse, but I will make it simpler. Okay. In fact, what he is saying is, how can a dreamer know he's dreaming? If I think therefore I am, how is it different from the dreamer knowing that he's dreaming? He couldn't. Remember that movie that we saw about this kind of a dream in 4 levels and this guy, right? He didn't know. How did he know? He has a talk and he go like this. If it lies down, then yes, he's not dreaming. A dreamer does not know what he is doing. He doesn't know he's dreaming. All right, I'll read the verse. If there was nothing but thought in you, you wouldn't even know you were thinking. The consciousness that say I am is not the consciousness that thinks. It is a different dimension of consciousness. Just like there's different dimensions of dreams. Okay? Now, this guy found what the scholars didn't know. But again, unfortunately, he is not quite at the level of Buddha yet. In fact, the 2 philosophers might have found the original sin in religion. Right, I will elaborate on that in a minute, later on in the slides. Yes?
Hi, I just want to interject.
Please.
When Jenny talked about the holistic health, and she mentioned 3 components of the being. There's the mind component, and then there's the spirit component. Is that saying the same thing, that I am not the consciousness that think is the mind, and the consciousness that said I am is the spirit, or something along that line? I just want to relate that to the earlier lecture on that.
Thank you. Well done. Next slide, please. All right. Now, this is a beautiful slide. Thank you, Ruby. Ego is no more than an identification with form. Difficult sentence, okay? Now, what kind of forms? Thought forms, physical forms, emotional forms, but primarily is a thought form. Now, you cannot get your hand on ego, right? Where is it? It's in our mind. It's a thought. And that's why the scholars was right. I think, therefore I am, is a thought process. Let's look down here. The baker, he does a great job. He's proud of his goods. So he has an ego. Then the office manager, you're fired. Okay? He has an ego. You don't do what I said? There's a door. Now, then the lawyer gets a bigger ego. And, obviously, not the 2 doctors there, okay? These are medical doctors. They are humble people. Okay, that's why I want to bring up that initial part, okay? Alright? This is me and my profession. I can even see my head. Never mind. Just my body. And it is so true. Mind if I digress a bit? Okay, I quote you an example about Dr. Siegel. Alright? Okay. Now, who is a fortunate person here who has been in the doctor's office and be seen on time? No? Nobody, right? Even me, when I went and see my colleague, whom I have referred many patients to, I still have to wait. Not as long as you guys, okay? His ego was as big as mine, so we are both the same, so he's seen me a lot earlier. Alright? Now, in terms of efficiency, please, if you have a full waiting room, and everyone's hourly wages is $10. There are 10 people. Everybody's wasting $100 of the GNP. Okay? And why is that accepted? Well, the office has a big ego. Okay? And I'll explain that in a few more slides. Okay? Next. Well, thanks, Ruby, again. It's a great slide. I appreciate it. It just helped me reflect. Total unawareness of my consciousness with the whole, source, being, and true consciousness. That's what ego is, okay? Now, remember, one of us said we are connected to the whole. Right? I think it's Chi, right? In one of the earlier slides. That is true consciousness. Okay, ego is totally unaware of it. It's I. Okay, how can I know about the whole? That's why we had the earlier lectures, to broaden our horizon, to open our mind to this whole idea. Now, various books will say whole, source, being, true consciousness. It actually meant the same thing. So we have a chance to read other books, literatures. Please, that will make your life a bit easier. Okay, being, suchness, and all those mean exactly the same thing. And it actually is about the same thing as Jising in Buddhism. If we borrow those terms and write something about it, we can make millions. Unfortunately, just please try.
Jising in Chinese just means Buddha nature.
Okay.
So the Buddha nature, that's closer to the equivalent terminology.
So why is it so hard for these days for us to understand Buddha? It's because we did not want to, or we have not modernized our language. And that's again, is what AWE is trying to do. Because once we have these terms, it's so easy to understand what Buddha said. Now, this unawareness or forgetfulness is really the original sin. It's a suffering delusion. I was actually going to read the Old Testament, the book of the Genesis, try to figure out why Adam and Eve was kicked out of heaven. And then, we inherit some kind of, in Christianity, original sin. If I finish reading it, I'm trying to pick it up, I think, I'll be able to explain it a bit better. But I believe, taking that apple from the Garden of Heaven is a thought process. Adam and Eve was tempted by Gabriel, I believe, right? The devil, in the name of a shepherd. And say, if you take this and you will be and all that, be whatever. And that is a thought process that you generate. I'll work on that one and try to read Genesis and see what is actually said. But again, that was translated from Hebrew to Greek and from Greek to English. So a lot of the original meaning might have been lost. Now, this is really the essence of what ego is all about, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the word I, together with me, mine, myself, are the most used words in the English language. Now, words and label are thought forms. Word I, in normal daily use, is a misinterpretation of who you are, but an illusionary sense of identity. Now, again, we bring up the word identity, illusion, as Einstein has said. Now, look at here, the cat. He's in the cat family. If you look inside here, he saw himself as a lion. What's going on? The thought process. Think he is a lot bigger. It's that illusion in the head of the cat, in the cat's thinking process, that made the cat feel and think that he's a lion. And that is an illusion. And that is a version of I, self, and ego. Thanks, Ruby. That's a great slide. Now, this is first section on definition of ego. Any questions from the audience? The crux of the presentation is a thought form. Okay. Yes, please.
In a sentence, the definition of ego, we use Einstein's definition then?
Definition is a thought form. Use whatever definition that fits the idea, please. Yes, I think that is a very good definition. It's much easier to understand than Descartes and Kawasaki. Yes, thanks. It's my ego blocking it. Yeah, thank you. Hey, once we understand the concept, everything we can just blame it on the ego, right? The blaming game is also an ego game. Okay, so we'll explain that in the subsequent section of this presentation.
It might be too early, but maybe it's time to also mention the Mahayana Buddhist concept of heavens, that they have 3 layers of heaven. The first layer are the heavens of desires. Within this realm of heaven of desire, the 6 levels. And then the next one is the heavenly realm of forms, right? Sekkai. Right? So that is some of the satire was saying, forms. Right? And then the highest level of existence is the non-form. Non-form just means Sekkai, just a thought process. That means the existence is this pure thought process. So in fact, the philosophers and their definition of existence in the attempt to answer the Zen question of existential doubt, as mentioned in your lecture, your slide, maybe Monique can go back to that slide, please. So in fact, Descartes is referring to the highest or 3rd realm of existence, that the thought process itself is a form of existence, and which is echoed by Jean-Paul, but then Jean-Paul is making it a bit more maybe closer to the 2nd realm. So anyway, I'm just trying to relate this Western philosophy to the ancient Buddhist teaching, which is what the AW mission is.
I'm not quite understanding when Jan talk about the consciousness. Consciousness. Yeah, it is quite confusing there. Could you please explain to me?
Yeah, okay. Consciousness is not the same term as what we day-to-day call alertness. Like you and I are alert, but we are not conscious. Okay, we're not talking about the same thing. Consciousness is kind of a higher thinking process. Now, it's thinking, okay? Consciousness is more like a spirituality. You feel who you are, what you are, but not what you think about the I, all the things. It's kind of a spiritual inside feeling.
Well, if I understand that, it's just like, just imagine when you first born, you don't know nothing. You just basically you grew up, you learned that things from society, that's it's not pure anymore.
So that concept.
That's what he's trying to explain at the right,
but when
right?
you first born, that means you're very conscious?
Because everything's natural. You're not learning anything from anywhere. Until you grew up, you just learn things from different people, and then whatever you think positive, negative, is right or wrong, how do you judge that? It's by people, right? By society.
So that's not conscious.
That is a different form of consciousness. That is not the true nature of us. The true nature, not what we perceive what nature means. So later on, when we talk about perception, you ask a very good question. You are way ahead of the game. And you are. Because a lot of these terms will come together when you have the later exposures to all the other lectures. It is a bit confusing. It's more like the feeling that you have, the good spirit that you have, instead of just focusing on the value. It's an inner feeling.
What conscious has to do with ego?
You are ahead of it, yeah. We have 3 days devoted to this important topic.
I see.
And we are going to come to that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You asked a very good question, which we'll try to address later on.
What if I think I don't have a conscience?
You do. That's very Now, I'll tell you what. I did some clinical hypnosis in my training. I'm a physician, by the way.
Okay.
I did some clinical training. In fact, this was actually by a hypnotherapist. He wrote on people who are depressed. He said, you were born with lots of good things. You were born
in our terms, with true consciousness. But you are like a statue in probably, let me just think, the dirtiest place I've been to in Europe, okay? Which part of the world are you from?
My parents from India, but I'm from Canada. I was born here.
Okay. So some of the European cities are really dirty, right? Okay. And all the statues are black in color. Right? Yeah, they haven't been polished. Exactly. So, the space the same was, you are like a statue. In the early days, pure, white, shiny, right? And later on, as you sit there, the carbon monoxide, the poison, the pollution start covering you. And you are so covered with dirt and mud that you have lost your beauty. You have lost your true nature. And that's what we are. And until those dirts have been polished, written off, wiped away, your true beauty will not show. Okay. That statue is your true consciousness. Everything else that people see after hundreds of years in the dirt, in the mud, in the rain, in the pollution, is you and I now, in the external form. So Chi, that may be what we are looking at, okay? That is from our hypnotherapist, and that's how we relate to people who are so depressed and so low in self-esteem, and polish them up by letting them shed their outer experience. Maybe that analogy is easier than just a pure, abstract concept of true consciousness. Okay.
I think the meaning was misinterpreted before, but now I think I understand.
Yeah. Because we associate the word consciousness with alertness. And that is an extremely difficult concept to kind of distinguish. Because our daily language has confused us. And our daily language is basically like the dirt and cover, the statue.
Emotional form?
Okay, I'll give you an example of emotional form, okay? The car just cut me off on the highway. There's nothing physical. I yell at him. I honk him. I swear at him. I said, that bastard, I'll try to catch up with him. Oh, what's that? A form? A thought process, right? That's an emotional form. I'm so upset that I'm going to give him my finger. Alright? I honk him. Okay? I'm going to chase him. I'm going to bump him off the road. What is that? That's an emotional form. To make it worse, we go and tell our friends and carry that with us for the next 2 days. Right? I'm going to get back to son of a bitch or something like that. Okay? Alright? We all do that. At some point. I'm not doing it now. I'll tell you how I do it later on, okay, in the third lecture. Just remember that story. Okay? We all had experience with it.
Yeah, I just want to elaborate with yet another example of how our Buddha nature or pure consciousness got contaminated as we grow up. Imagine a Muslim child and a Christian child when they are born. They are innocent, they have no concept of the value system in each of their culture. So if they both tasted alcohol or wine, they will say, okay, this is how alcohol or wine tastes like, right? But as they grow up and they are brought up by different religious doctrines, in the Christian doctrine, wine is part of the Mass. It represents the blood of Jesus. It's a holy icon. It's a symbol of holiness. Whereas in the Muslim religion, alcohol is strictly forbidden. It's the evil thing. So then, the Christians said, I am a Christian. I look at this wine as the blood of Jesus. Whereas I, the Muslim, will say, you, the infidel, must be eliminated because you indulge in alcohol and even treat this devil poison concoction, you mistook it as holy, right? So this is when the I and the ego has completely overshadowed the pure nature of recognizing things are just the way they are. But later on, through different culture, education, brainwashing, assume entirely different meanings. So this is how we recognize our Buddha nature away from the I, ego, self, and brainwashing and contamination. This is what this course is trying to do. Thank you.
We are not really just focusing on Buddhism. We are focusing on the true nature. Our course combines philosophy, religion, and science as equal. Okay. So we are not just talking about Buddhism. We are talking about something that's higher than Buddhism. The true nature of the universe. So it actually transcends religion. Alright, so can we go to the next section?